Our next speaker, you've seen her title in the program, and it's the same to the best of my knowledge. She is a lady that's almost impossible to explain. Therefore, I have asked the lady who brought her to us to explain her to you. So first, will you welcome Connie Patterson, who will introduce Alice Tomasella.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Houston. Close, so I have to stick this in my face. Okay. Welcome to Houston. And we're very proud of this city as the space city for Texas, with Neil Armstrong and his great time of the walk on the moon when he landed and said, "Houston, the eagle has landed." And that's how I feel about Alice. She's a beautiful white eagle that has been sent to us from the spiritual planes. She is multi-talented, multifaceted. She's got amazing gifts of the spirit. She is a medical intuitive. She can see inside of people's bodies and see the organs in full color with the blood pulsing through your veins, with your nervous system working, with your short circuits in your body, your lymph system. She can go to the cellular level, the molecular level, the DNA level, and see. She reads your DNA in numeric sequence. She is quite amazing as a medical intuitive. Now, the trick is to find out what to do with those great gifts, and the medical intuitive abilities to see inside the body just happened a year ago. And she had no background in anatomy or what she's seen inside the body, so piecing that together to be able to apply the healing arts is the next step along the way. She also is able to channel a spiritual energy that comes through her eyes or hands or however she directs it, through her breath, to transform the blockages in your body, the spiritual blockages, the mental, emotional, or physical. So she does have great gifts of healing as well. She didn't start out this way in her life. She was a normal gal that attended college and was heading towards the business world, went to UT and obtained a degree in social and behavioral sciences, and then went on for a master's in environmental management, which has a lot to do with urban studies and city planning. And she applied that as the city planner for San Antonio when she was first out of college, and then moved to Houston after that, and began operating in the business world and immediately started some businesses which were incredibly successful. She amassed multi-millions with oil field company and a big recruiting firm that had over 100 employees, plus a financial planning firm that did acquisitions and mergers and planning and her own financial projects along the way. When she hit 30, she decided it was time to begin cutting back on her work activities because she had a child. And so she began divesting herself of anything that took a lot of time. But by that time, she was a multimillionaire many times over. She was well along her way with being the mother that she wanted to be when she had a near-death experience at age 32. This happened from a stroke that hit her very suddenly, that her heart stopped. She was flatlined for 4 minutes. And many of you are aware of people that have experienced near-death experiences. Many of them come back with exceptional gifts. This was actually Alice's third near-death experience. So she already had gifts before she even hit this one, but the other ones were when she was a baby, young years, and then 19 years of age. But this third one really did a number on her. And she came back with being charged with the responsibility of, if she chose to live, she would need to devote her life to the spiritual realm and being of service to mankind. She was to set aside her personal assets for the betterment of mankind. What she did not know was that she was not the only one having this phenomenon. There were 250,000 people all over the world at the same time that she had her near-death experience. Within an 8-day period, they also had a near-death experience. Unusually enough, these were multimillionaires just like she was, and they were all charged with pooling their assets for the betterment of mankind, and that is exactly what has happened. This happened 15 years ago. So we are looking for great changes in our world today. The end of economic terrorism, the end of the graft and corruption within our governments and organizations throughout the world that are caretakers of the people. We are looking for these kinds of changes, for people to stop polluting our environment and our seas and our air and our land. We are looking for these kinds of changes. But where do we have the clout to get this to happen? Well, when you've got trillions of dollars for the betterment of mankind in force, it can happen. Knowing Alice is giving me a new sense of hope in this world that seems so hopeless at times. Perhaps now we really do have the resources to make the transformation in our world. She is a global transformationist, and she will do the best she can to explain how that came to be. She will be using some terms that you all may not be familiar with, and I want to give a quick definition. She will refer to factions 1, 2, and 3 a fair amount, usually she will. And faction 1 is what we know of as the royal caste, the people that have been the rulers of countries for centuries, the royal bloodlines, plus the religious sects that have been around for a long time, that have had the money and the power to have the people do as they bid through whatever means, financially and through their religious dogmas. This is considered faction number 1. And oftentimes the Illuminati is associated with faction number 1, and the things that we're not real thrilled about out there that are out there for self-gain quite a bit. Then there's faction number 2. Faction number 2 would be considered the new great power of wealth in the world. This has happened over the last century. So these are the innovators, the people that came from everyday folks that made the inventions and the changes in our world and amassed millions themselves to only become another power base, challenging faction number 1. And they're in competition with faction number 1 for the economic control, political control of our world. And then there's faction number 3, which most of us in this room would probably be considered a party to, whether you are consciously affiliated with it or not. And faction number 3 began as defectors of faction number 1 and faction number 2. These were the people that have had enough. They're ready for equity in our world, for us to have governments that are truly the caretakers of the people as they were designed to be. And these are the people that have the will, which we all do in this room, and others have the resources to be the global transformationists we need to have a divine world order based on spirit first. And that's what this is all about. And that's what Alice is all about. So at this time, I'd like for you to meet Alice and see what she can tell you about the rest of what's happened in her life.
Bear with me for a minute. Is this on? How about now? Whew, beautiful light. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thank you. This is what I see. We're just going to go through some slides so you'll understand what I'm going through now as I'm looking down at y'all. And it's very uncomfortable looking down in the first place. Go ahead, Craig. See that hand? All of us have hands like that. Look at your hands. Hold your hands up. Look in front of you. Do you see any of that? Do you see any electricity or light coming off? All of us have this capability, every single one of us. I see this. I see this. Go ahead. And this. And this. And that. Stop right there for a minute. When I meet somebody who's really gifted with some spiritual tools that just are not installed, Something has happened throughout your lifetime that has disconnected your ability to flow your electricity. You don't look like this, but if you have been totally in oneness with yourself, you look like this to me when I meet you. I don't see your face, your eyes, your hair, your clothes, or any of that. I don't see that. And when I come across you, I register you as this. You might have a different vibration, you might have a different color, but this is how I register somebody. So this could be, hell, I could be somebody. When I watch people work on each other people, this is what I see. Now this is very cool. Can you imagine if all of us could see just this every time we went to give somebody a hug? Can you imagine the difference in attitudes we'd have? Oh, this is what I see. That funnel thing, I want to show you something. When you do this, and you go, it's the same design, isn't it? When you do it 3 times, you reach the astral plane, the divine plane, and the physical plane. So you suck in this vacuum corridor where whatever attention you're trying to draw to yourself so you can communicate, that's what happens. So next time you say a prayer, you might want to clap 3 times. Okay. I just took a ride in the travel chamber. This universe travel chamber over here. Y'all should experience that. Some people can really go back to where they came from. You can go past the dimension that you exist in right now and experience what it could be like if you're actually traveling in space. It's really cool. You should try it. I want to talk about faction number 3. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on faction number 1 or 2, and I want to introduce some concepts. Faction number 3 are people who typically have worked in faction number 1 or 2 and just got fed up. And when they decided to tell the people they were working for they were fed up and they didn't want to deal with it anymore, they were killed. So spiritually they're in faction number 3. Or they were shot at, or isolated, or tortured, or went through mind control and go on through all those things. We have several speakers who are going to really go through exactly what happened. But the bottom line is one day, just about every case, they stopped to call to God for a little help. And it's when they stopped to call for God is when they created a promise chip. And from that moment on, you become a humble servant of God. You don't really know what your mission is, but you wind up serving God somehow. If you're lucky enough to stay in the expertise that you have, well, I suppose you retain your material gifts and go on. If you have to change career fields, it's like anything. In a career change, you have to start again. What faction number 3 has managed to do is connect up with the universe, the extraterrestrials, some call, I guess what y'all are calling them now, ETs. I call them BOPs, being of other planets. There are 18 alien factions. Every single one of them are in this room right now. Why are they cooperating at this moment in time? It's simply because they couldn't go home anymore. When the black hole corridors closed, they had no way to get out, so they decided to cooperate. The first step in their process was to go back to where they made their original agreements, like with countries of Russia and China and Japan and the United States, and I could go on with that for a long time. Each one of them had a little deal. That's why we have so much high tech coming out of different countries, kind of an unexplainable thing. Sometimes these inventions or new technologies come from very remote parts of the world. Aliens came to our planet because this is supposed to be a pleasure planet. This is the only planet that's got water and trees and mountains and valleys and green things, and it's fun. We're supposed to develop a civilization that deals in how can we enjoy this planet better. But we've been very busy for a couple of thousand years, actually 5,500, tearing it all up. We have decided to train people in education by thinking self-defense. Military has inundated our educational system. Religions have backed that philosophy, and politics have been right there. When I entered this game and made the commitment to be a humble servant, I did it because I wanted to be a mother. That was something I could not buy. And believe me, before that point, that last little trip down to up to the white light and back down again, I thought I could buy everything. But you know what? You can't buy motherhood. So when God asked me, what did I want? I said I wanted to be a good mother, period. I came back down to this planet and started on my merry way. And then a little bit later, the white light comes back. And it's like, okay, I should have known that when you ask for something, you got to do something in return. But hey, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about what I had said, because another question asked was, so if you're going to be a good mother, what would that include? And it's like being able to know that she gets to live in the next generation, that we have a planet where she can enjoy the things I did, like riding your bike to school. I don't know why that popped up, but it did. And I asked for extreme, because when you serve God, at the end of your journey, you complete your mission, you do get a reward. And I asked for extreme. Well, because I asked for an extreme reward, I have wound up with an extreme journey. The good news is that I operate well with extremes. I operate very well in black and white. It makes my life very easy. What I did not know at that time is that our world had pretty much become gray. There weren't any rules. I did not know that. I was too busy making money. It didn't matter really how I made money. It was like step by step. I didn't consider things like, are we going to break up a family because we're going to create a corporation and split the family up, and the community, there's none? You live in a neighborhood? Never thought about that. I never thought about things that I consider now. People being allowed to say what they want, feel what they want, do what they want, without having to have some governmental entity or paramilitary entity or foundation interfere with that path. So here I am. I never thought I would have to stand up and come out in public and have a conversation, ever. All I wanted to do was remain way in the background and just feel the vibration of living creation. Faction number 3 has gathered up all of the black operation monies of the world. Everything from the, when I say paramilitary, does everyone know what I mean by that? CIA, FBI, DEA, CIC? Well, it's an organization, it's a group of people that have been appointed by a presidential mandate to create an agency for some reason. They're normally appointed to protect us. Something happened on the way to that definition. They're supposed to protect us. The fact that they took money given to them and started their own businesses, their own companies, their own projects, and failed to tell anybody about it was kind of irrelevant for a very long time. It wasn't until brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers began to be killed. A lot of times when you work in the military, like the State Department, maybe your wife might be in the military, or your brother is in the CIA. There's a lot of people that work within governmental agencies. We had a series in 1984 of thousands of agents and their family members being killed off. And they were killed by each other because they failed to inform each other of the missions they were doing. And they couldn't tell everybody what they were doing because they weren't supposed to be doing it in the first place. At that moment in time, many of those agents and those family members became very discouraged, and when they began to try to leave their jobs, all kinds of charges. The same job they had been doing, all of a sudden, it's illegal because somebody went through their file and removed the paperwork, or they went through their college credentials and pulled them up, or they took their credit and totally ruined it, or they went into their bank accounts and totally sucked it dry. But that's okay because that was somebody with a license, called an agent, with a mandate to do just that. The fact that it broke your rights was irrelevant. And then we went through 15 years of court battles where the justice system would not work because some kind of a national security person would walk in and interfere with your case, and no justice was found. And that's when we got the wave of justices, and that is why we don't have judges appointed. Y'all have any idea how many judgeships are available, but we don't have judges for them? Hundreds. I think there's over 200 now. So how can you have justice if you don't have enough judges to hear your cases? Recently, we've had a lot of media coverage explaining what is happening to our world. All of a sudden, people are interested in their spirituality. Why? Because it's probably the last thing they can think of. Nothing else is working. So once again, every time you cry out to God, crawl there too, I guess, you wind up creating a promise chip. God decided one day to call in all the promise chips. That's really what faction number 3 is all about. When the vibration from this planet emanates up into the air, up into the atmosphere, there are these things called vacuum corridors. We can't see them. Well, some of us can see them. Star. We give the rest of the universe's hope. This planet has something very, very unique, and it is the vibration of the heart. No other planet has that. No other universe has that. Our greatest defense, whether it's military or whether it's attack from somewhere, will always be the oneness of ourselves. We have the ability to heal ourselves. We have the ability to change an entire frequency of vibration to where it's that positive thinking slogan. Or you can do what you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. All that is true. We issued a challenge to the military. And that is, as we have one group wanting to go explore into space, we have another group on our planet who are still fighting over the borders. Aliens don't see borders. We don't talk about countries looking down to planet Earth. They could care less. All they're interested in is whether or not they can bring their high-tech gifts to this planet, and can we use them? Why? Because they want this to be the pleasure planet. They want to be able to buy a ticket and come to this planet and stay here for a little while. Sharing the knowledge they have, comparing the knowledge we have, it's like night and day. We can't even, our military hasn't been able to create a way to follow an ET ship. We don't have that technology. Now we're on the brink of having it, because the faster we can create computer chips, the faster we'll be able to track them, and maybe one day we'll be able to catch them as they're just hanging there. But you know, when a ship flies over our little planet, it's like it can shadow a whole city. So why are we spending so much on defense here? Doesn't make any sense to me. And here's the other part, why the military decided to cooperate. And they have decided to cooperate. Our planet sets on an axis. Our planet turns. Are you with me? Every time we have an explosion on this planet, all we are doing is vibrating the magnetic pull of the planet. So eventually, if we hit ourselves too hard one day, we just might fall over. And if we fall over, then what does that do? We won't be. The other universes are not going to allow us to do that. This is when they decided to cooperate with some real high-tech stuff. Our objective is to arm every single human being with the ability to tune in to the divine, astral, and physical plane, to tune in to our own vibration and frequencies, to raise it to a point that we can heal ourselves from within, and that after we are finished making ourselves healthy, we can take the excess light and give it away. to help other people heal themselves faster. So this is what we've done. In this group of people that had to set their money aside, we're all specialists. I happen to be a country infrastructure planner. That means I can go into any piece of land and set it up and make a country work to where it works. And it can play on a first world game. Each one of these people had their own talents. First, we started with the World Bank, Central Bank, IMF. And yeah, have they done a good job? No, they haven't. They just couldn't quite get it. The good news is that most of the existing board members have resigned or have been indicted or are on their way to jail or miraculously did not wake up the next day. This is where we are at today on this planet with those entities. We are at the very top of the political problem, and there is a problem. I mean, I'm like the big guinea pig. I am. I like these mind control people. They beam a vibration so that they can control your mind, and you do things you don't know you're doing. But in order to get you to that point, they have to totally unwire you. So that means we as taxpayers are paying for torture, shock, and all those other things, and somebody's going to spend their time talking about that. The reverse pattern now is that when a mind control beam is being beamed to them, we have created a frequency so it does the opposite of what the intention was. And it's working out real well. In the banking system, when you go to steal a little more money, and there are a lot of points where you stop. You go into a bank, you want to do a transaction. The first door is the banker himself or herself. They do their job, the transaction rolls along, it all gets down to proving collateral. We have developed a system to where the banks are responsible for proving the collateral. If it is not real, the transaction does not work. Now for those people who just don't have it down yet, they're not into acceptance yet, and they step forward and they try to steal some more money, everybody that is connected to that transaction through the back door in an automatic auditing system, which is run by Universe Court, they lose everything in that transaction, and they lose everything connected to that transaction, period, in the end. And we have demonstrated this ability for the past 4 years. This is how faction number 1 and 2 have fallen. They just don't have any more money. Now, we are making a great big step. It started at 3:15 just a little while ago. Everybody sitting in this room is a specialist. I'm not real sure what you specialize in yet because your light is vibrating at a very high frequency. One person who has an attitude that you can and you will, you have the desire to do something for someone else in altruistic love, which includes joy. You have the ability to take a whole big group of people in a room and recalibrate their frequency. So instead of having a mind control project beaming down on you via satellite, why not just spread joy? Joy is the one and only thing that stops aliens most aliens are in cooperation now, but there are a few rogues out there. It stops them in their track. The frequency of joy is a frequency that totally stops their ability, their power. I want to talk about the environment for a moment. The other thing that God has commanded us to do is to bring this planet back to healthy state. This is a bit ridiculous. We had somebody talk earlier this morning about water. You got to have water just to survive. Why isn't that our number one priority? You got to have air to survive. Why isn't that our number one priority? This country alone, look at the money we spend on military. How many of y'all vote? Well, we're not going to do it at 50-50. Everybody needs to vote. If you don't vote, your voice isn't heard. The one thing the politicians can't get to is your actual vote. Now, they can try to brainwash you. They can buy you if you're for sale. But when you shut that little curtain and you pull that little lever, who knows? Faction number 3 involves service to God. It involves altruistic love. It involves a commitment not of money, but into bringing the planet back to its original state. And what I mean by that, our air quality is so heavy here, how can you possibly float? We're trying to get to the point that we can float like little birds or angels. But the air is so heavy we can't do that with our bodies. The good news is there's some people that are in this room and have some equipment here that can help you get there. Sometimes when you experience something you have forgotten, and you get to experience just once, your body will recalibrate, and the frequency to feel that light feeling will come back. If you can get there, you can start healing your body. I work with some people that we do two things. The environmental people, they just don't know how to do it. This is why I'm very happy to see different types of techniques and technology here. We've got some technology that clean up water, like a whole lake full, like Lake Erie, by putting one drop and 42 frequency vibrations onto the water, vibrate it, and it cleans. How come we can't do that? You know why we can't do that? It's because we do that. All those 200,000 jobs that were planned for that are gone. So our job is to create more jobs in the pleasure sector. That's our job. If we can do that, if we can figure out more ways for people to have jobs in the non-traditional areas, we can accomplish the task. We can accomplish the task faster if we'll all get healthy. Now, I eat cheeseburgers. I eat French fries. I drink margaritas. I even smoke cigarettes and other stuff. Which brings me to another subject. Medicine. Now, how did we go from a planet that you picked a root and some herbs, and you put them together, and you drank them, and all of a sudden, presto, you're well? How did we go from that kind of knowledge to going down to a store to get a pill? I mean, the petroleum industry has come up with everything. They even supply those little casings, the stuff in the pill goes. And we haven't been able to get rid of them because they're still doing it. They're just doing it with healthy vitamins now. So what's up with that? Medicine's got to go back to its original state. How did we go from having the ability to heal ourselves to being totally dependent on calling up somebody to go make a reservation if you possibly can get an appointment, to go see a doctor for 5 seconds, and then getting a prescription and go getting it filled? What happened? Well, these are the challenges. The water thing, what's going on in the world today? Faction number 1, 2, and 3. Those that had money in the great big beginning. Those that weren't so happy because they didn't have any money in the beginning, they decided to form faction number 2. But you know what? They're the same. Here's the same things. And I work in a matrix every day. Everything I do is a matrix. It's the same graft and greed. They have the same attitudes. So faction number 3 is like holding everybody down. Can you imagine offering the world a proposal to go to 185 countries? 185 countries to solve their environmental problems, to solve their human rights problems, to create a real investment opportunity and giving them the money. But we can't do that because the United States of America doesn't want to own up to the few things they did along the way. It's called black ops. It's called off-the-book financing. It's called let's create these war bonds, these gold bonds, but let's don't honor them because we had a time limit for turning them in. That's where we're at. The other countries aren't too thrilled about this because as the United States will not move and honor its commitment to make things right, these countries are falling faster and faster. And the rate of environmental destruction is only angering those that have committed their lives to this cause. And God is not very happy. This is why we are having this strange weather, these volcanoes that keep erupting, and these freezes and these rains, no explanation, and from nowhere, tornadoes. And if any of you are historical scholars and you did a matrix over where these events are happening, it'd be crystal clear that we are going back in the spiritual vibration of what happened in these parts of the land over thousands of years. Now, politicians are kind of waking up to this because it keeps hitting their area. The same politicians that will not move because they still want to be paid, they're losing their constituency. It's happening all over the world. So what can I say? You come up with a plan, you're leaving money in a country, you don't charge them anything for it, you even fund their banks, clean their water, give them jobs and education and everything else they need to be a first world trading country, and we can't do it because our country doesn't want it to happen. Now, I'm an American, and I was raised in a military family, and I lost my hope in justice and honor and integrity when I was 19 years old. So the question I have for you is, how many have you lost integrity, have lost the belief in integrity for the United States? Mm-hmm. How many of you have hope that we can fix the problem? Whew, that's a relief. Faction number 3, today, I'm going to see if I can take you around the world very quickly. When a banking transaction happens, it is wrong. Literally, everything that was on their computer systems and files is wiped out. Every single one of their accounts are audited. And every time we find something that is not correct, it's not true, they lose that too. Whew, I hope I can think of something to say for 25 minutes. I can dance. I can dance if you had music, it'd be cool. Oh, God. Okay, I'll take a question. Yes? What? Maybe I should have danced instead.
I was raised in a military family also, and I've seen the corruption, especially in the last decade, I would say. And my question is the fact that you say we've spent all this money on the military, and yet the military is more and more hollowed out. We must be sending our arms somewhere else.
Maybe it has to do with all of the arms that were stolen through the back door by the very people that were responsible for safekeeping them.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to rebuild what they're supposed to have.
And in the meantime, we've got Panama Canal that we've sort of given away, and we have China controlling both ends of the Panama Canal and building in Freeport, Bahamas, which is even closer to us, and threatening that if we want to help Taiwan, we're talking about helping other countries here.
Yes.
And they want to move in on Taiwan and put their heavy energy on Taiwan. Taiwanese do not want this. And we pledged to help them, so if we don't have a military to help them with, we can't even defend ourselves the way it's looking to me. So therefore, I just was sort of questioning what you had said earlier about the military.
We need the military for self-defense. That's just logic. That makes sense. But when we develop weapons, and their only purpose is for a total annihilation of anything living, that's wrong.
So we give those away to China.
We gave them away.
Oh, sold them for campaign funds, excuse me.
Okay. That's faction number one.
But it was
or
such
two.
a cheap rate that I think that maybe we should say we almost gave them away. He couldn't even prostitute very well. Sorry about
It's
that.
redistribution. It's redistribution of how we spend our money on defense is what's going on here. And the bottom line to it is the military is short. They cannot prove up their inventory. They don't have it. We're more than willing to give them the money to replace it, including the super fund. But until we have an agreement that all of the Black Ops money, off the books money, is turned in through this procedure, we're not going to release any money.
Oh, we got a problem with that too, because if we give our Black Ops secrets, some of them are good to have, I think, because we have a president and a head of the CIA. Security is like a sieve. There is none. So you can understand the average Black Ops guy who says, "Hey, I'm not going to tell the White House. Look at this. Like, in the State Department has known for this for years." So maybe you could explain. It puts me in a quandary.
Hey, imagine this. President says, okay, you bubbas are going to war. So they pack up all their stuff, they're going to war. They get to where they're going. This happened in the Desert Storm thing. It happened in Kosovo, too. They open up all their boxes, and they're like missing stuff. I tell you what, if we as people are going to allow our military to send our people without the right tools,
Absolutely.
we're wrong. And we're not doing our jobs as caretakers of this planet. Our commitment to the military, and we do have a commitment to the military, and that is that we don't commit our troops to war if they don't have an exit strategy. That is the only thing they asked for, and that is what we've promised them, and that is what they'll get. But the United States politicians have to settle down and allow the rest of the world to play in the game. The United States of America is not going to conquer this planet and run it all. It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah, it would be nice if they had equipment that would work, Apache helicopters that would work, the coverall for germ warfare without holes in it. You know,
That's
those
what I'm
special
saying.
suits,
That's
things
what
like
I'm
that.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes?
Hi.
Hello?
There's a phenomena going on around here. They're spraying the skies, and they're calling them chemtrails.
Ooh, I love those.
Do you know anything about that?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. Well, that's somebody's insane plot. You know, let's make them people sick, or let's send a vibration so they can get into mind control pattern. And God's solution to that was, let's do a mirror reverse. So every time I see one of those, I know that glitter is falling from the sky, and every body that it touches, it's the direct opposite of their purpose. It helps people get clarity.
You're saying the chemtrails are helping the people then?
They are helping the people at this time. In the beginning, they were not.
Okay, so they've changed.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm a teacher, and when I took my children out on the playground, I was telling the other teachers the whole sky was full of them, and to look up. Most people don't ever look up. And A day after we were out on the playground, the teachers were sick, half the students were sick with respiratory problems. Is there a relationship here?
Yes, what happened to them after they got well?
Nothing.
Could they breathe better?
I don't know.
Could they think faster? Did their electricity flow better in their body?
I don't know.
The average person that experiences breathing in a chemtrail that has gone through the reverse intent process winds up thinking faster and clearer, and the electricity runs faster through their body. Jimmy
Good.
Pennington could prove that, and he's way back there. But he's be in our booth if you want to talk about
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
I'd like for you to go a little more deeply into the economic terrorism and the way the gold notes and bank rolls that are along with that are getting cleaned up.
Yeah. All right, let's see if I can visualize this. Gotta have props. You gave me $1, and you run a country, and I gave you a receipt for your $1. You want to borrow $1 from me. I give you a copy of my receipt. Now you have $1 to spend. He comes over to your house, he's representing some other country, y'all get in a game or whatever, and you throw that little piece of paper in and he wins it. He takes that piece of paper and he goes to the country right next to him, and he is going to take that same piece of paper and he's going to get a real $1 from her. She puts it in her portfolio. And the next person needs $1. So this person that got the paper, you have the cash, you have the note, you have the cash. We still only have one piece of paper, right? And we have $1 or we have 2. Just keep going. For 52 years, our country, actually the whole world did this. You take a piece of paper and you use it like it's money, but it's not money. It's just a commitment. And some of these rolls have like 60 rolls in them. Chris. What has caused faction number 1 and 2 to fall is back in 1934, these German gold bonds were issued. Each country was issuing gold bonds. You had one pile of gold, and you might have 30 pieces of paper attached to that same pile, except for each one of those pieces of paper gave you the right to spend the big pile of gold. One pile, 30 people can spend it all. So how much is that? 30 times we're deficit, 30 times what we don't have. A lot of our countries got involved with these friendly trading things. They're calling it balance of trade. They just would take the paper, they'd use it in their portfolio, it's in their financial statements, it gave the country the ability to borrow money from the World Bank, except for when we came along, and it's like, prove it. You got this piece of paper that says you got the $1 or you got the gold. Show me the $1. Show me the gold. And when they couldn't, and they got audited, all of a sudden their ability to borrow money was gone. It was faction number 1 and 2. This is how they began to lose their leverage and their control. They did not have the ability to prove up their assets. Is that enough? Oh, God. It's amazing. We got this country going. It's like, let's just give you this pile of money. You can start your own private little bank, and you can go and spend money wherever you want. Give people the illusion the United States of America is totally behind you, and we're not going to watch you. We're not going to count your money. We're not ever going to check in on you, and we're going to let you do it for 52 years. That's the Federal Reserve. It's a private bank. Can you imagine what Congress was sitting on that little stage when they decided to give the right for somebody to put together a Federal Reserve? It's like, what were they thinking? It's the most blatant example of no democracy. And we're still fighting it. The bottom line to it is, if we were to pay off the national debt, we wouldn't have a Federal Reserve. In fact, number 3 has already put the money in place to do just that. But we've got some people who just don't want us to pay off the national debt, because if we do that, we don't need a Federal Reserve. But you know what? One day, we're not going to have a Federal Reserve, and we're not going to have any national debt, and we will have retirement funds, and we will have health benefits. We'll have all those things, and our taxes are going to be lower, and it's coming very soon.
Alice, I know you wouldn't have brought up all of these problems unless you had a solution to offer or were asking for us to come up with ideas for solutions. So I want to hear what you have to say about that. And also I want to let you know that there is an organization in this country right now that I know about and am supporting that is working towards exactly what you're talking about. They want to clean up the air, clean up the water, get us back to our natural medicines, clean up our crops and our food, and clean up the money situation and the political situation, the whole thing. And it does take people voting in order to have these things happen. I want to hear some of your ideas about what you've got going on and see if it may even be the same type of thing that...
It is the same.
Okay.
It is the same. It's a good organization.
It's the Natural Law Party.
Now, see, the thing is, you got to get out of politics. If you get it out of politics, it's going to fly big time. Because I'll tell you what. Once again, just imagine this. You're in a country and you don't have enough money to buy your seeds. We allow a corporation because they're going to give you free seeds to grow your crops. Sounds good, right? Sounds good? Now let's see. It totally destroys your soil. So now you got to buy fertilizer to make your soil better again. And then you got to get free seeds, but you can't have anybody else's seeds, just theirs. And you got to use their fertilizer. If anybody wants to say a prayer, say one for India and Pakistan, because they are caught in a downturn. They don't know how to get out of it. And what's worse is the floods that they have had over the last 6 months has totally torn the topsoil off of their growing ability. And I don't know what they're going to do. And Africa is in the same situation exactly right now. So yes, agriculture is where... You know what happened with agriculture? This is wild. Think about farmers. Think about yourselves. How many of you grow plants? When you go to water it, I mean, do you just throw water in there and just like you're out the door? Or just sometimes you like talk to them or admire them? How many of you do that? It's really cool. Plants talk. They have vibration. They have a frequency. So when the farmers would get up and spend a lot of time with their crops, they would grow. And the thing is, you can give them light. Just hold your hand up like this and give them light, and they grow faster. I did an experiment. Had a little plant like this and a big plant like this, doing the same thing. One I gave light to, one I didn't. The key to our success is bringing balance. And it's not just the soil like we see dirt. It's all the other nutrients and the little animals and the little insects and the little, we can't even see them, that makes it work. Quality of food, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know why we have grocery stores that sell you food that have absolutely no nutritional value. It's like, what are we thinking? It's like you're trying to solve the problem of feeling like you're hungry. It's like, why can't we spend some of that money coming up with the good stuff? But the good news is that more and more healthy food is being sold because more and more people are buying it. So that's a good thing.
There's another organization that's working on these very things. And this man who's head of it has been saying the things you're saying for about 20 years. He's an economist, and I'm not talking politics now, but he is running for president. And
Who is he?
Lyndon LaRouche. And they won't mention his name in the media because he's against Faction 1 and Faction 2, and he tells it like it is.
I don't know what to do about that.
Well, he has a website.
I don't use computers like that.
What is
And
it?
I can't read. I cannot go and read. I can't watch movies because I have a lot of limitations.
Well, this man is running for president so that we will consider his ideas. And he's an economist. He knows exactly what's been happening to all these things you're talking about. And he's hoping that America will wake up. And he has a plan, a remedy for the situation,
Well, that's cool.
which is a new Bretton Woods like Roosevelt used to pull us out of the Depression. And it's a way to lend money to everybody who wants to farm or do a business at a very low interest rate, and they pay it back. It happened in Roosevelt's time.
We have a plan like that.
Well, if anyone wants to pay attention, he has a website, lyndonlarouche.org, and he will be on the ballot in most states. But he's had to fight to get his name on the ballot because the establishment is so against his ideas. But I just wanted to say there are things to do about it.
Yes.
I like the way you cover a few things. Down on the table where all those signs are, one says, no nation can survive when taxes are assessed OTA for money-created OTA, out of thin air. Now, the international bankers want and have pretty much control, but they want to destroy 75% of the races.
They want what?
To destroy 75% of the people, period, because they they want total control. Now back here I've got a flyer that you've got to pick up on Bad Check Louis explaining the bonds and how this country's gone to detriment down the hill, period.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Plus, the fact is we have a solution to the problem. There's been a bill in Congress right now that's being completely ignored totally. There's a bill in the state of Minnesota on the money reform. So if we understand money, we all need it, we all use it, but what is it? So we can understand educated people with 4 or 5s. You know what I mean by 4 or 5s? 5 words or less, 5 seconds, 5th grade level and 5 times, and the awakening is coming. Thank you.
I'd like to hear you talk more about the infrastructure planning of countries and how there will be an end to the corporate entities going international and using up the resources of other countries and leaving them more bankrupt than when they arrived for a few jobs while they were there. And the plan that was submitted to one of our world organizations that most of the nations agreed to that will pull us out of that pattern.
Okay. When we go into a country and we're going to do a project, 30% of what the investment is remains in the country. 30% remains with the investor that put it together, and 30% remains with the management administration of the project. 10% remains in the actual community where the project is. Am I answering your question? Okay. I'm sorry that there's been a frequency shift in the room here. Our plan is that we don't care if you work for a union or not. We don't care if you're a union member or not. But whatever that job is, when you get your paycheck, it had better include money for education, money for retirement, money for disability, money for death, and that's all. We can't go along paying people when they don't have their needs covered. We have spent a lot of time around the world recalibrating what is a need. A need is not bread and water every day. A need is not living in a tin shelter. That's not a need. A need is to have nutritious food, clean water, a warm place or a cool place, We've had to put words into the definitions of what we need for our world. It's incredible. Some of these meetings, when they talk about what are you supposed to have, just human rights, they go on for hours. I don't know what else to say. Y'all, I got 1 minute.
It's I hear all about the bad guys, the government and whoever's behind all the evilness of the world. That's never bothered me. What's bothered me is the people. It's not them, it's us. My question is this: what do you have any idea what the catalyst is going to be for the people to wake up and get knowledgeable of the things going on so they can make the better decisions? Because it doesn't seem like it's happening. You got the news media, which is subduing a lot of information. You have to seek the information out in other ways. You can't get it on TV anymore. You get it through books or
Okay.
coming here. So
Whew.
my hope is with the people, but my question is,
Can you please turn that light off? Whew. Our greatest strength is from within. Those people who will work for corporations who have been the biggest culprit in the demise of human rights are our greatest warriors. And all we've asked them to do is their job. No more, no less. Not to take an order from somebody up on top of them, do as you're told, but to ask yourself, is it the right thing? And does it meet policy? Faction number 3 has managed to listen to God in such a way that from within the changes have already started. We are at the top of the mountain now. And I imagine by the time I get off this stage, I'd like to watch the news, actually. I really don't get to do that very often. We are at the point of flight. Those people, those companies, those individuals, those foundations, those vibrations that don't get it, don't want to get it, will never get it, will never surrender, are in for an interesting surprise. We have no more time to correct the problems on planet Earth. So when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, put your hand over your heart, and as you breathe your first breath, ask yourself, do you feel different? Because if you do, then you'll have answered your own question. Bringing about peace on this planet is not an elitist thing. It is about returning the power to the people. Okay?
okay, I'll have faith.
Oh, my time's up? Yeah. Thank you very much.